Welcome to today's video, where we're diving deep into one of the most fascinating shifts happening in the world of tech manufacturing. Apple's decision to change up where your iPhones are actually made. Now, if you're thinking, aren't all iPhones made in China? Well, you're mostly right. But that's changing, and the reasons behind it are not only intriguing, but also tell a bigger story about the global economy, supply chains, and some smart moves by Apple. For years, China has been the undisputed heavyweight champion when it comes to iPhone production. Foxconn's massive plant in Zhengzhou, often dubbed iPhone City, is responsible for about 82.5% of all iPhones manufactured worldwide. That's a huge number! You can't talk about Apple's production without mentioning China's skilled labor force, well-established supply chain, and the sheer scale that allows them to crank out millions of devices at breakneck speed. But lately, things aren't as smooth as they used to be. There are geopolitical tensions, trade wars, and increasing pressure for companies to diversify their production bases. Apple, ever the smart player, is making moves to avoid putting all its eggs in one basket, or should I say, all its chips on one factory line. And that's where India and Vietnam come into play. Let's talk about India. India is emerging as the rising star in the iPhone production game, now contributing around 8.5% of the total global output. And Apple isn't just stopping there. They have plans to crank this up to about 25% by 2025. So why India? Well, the answer is a mix of opportunity and strategy. India's young, skilled workforce is hungry for opportunities, and the government is throwing out all sorts of incentives to attract big players like Apple. Plus, with a billion-strong market eager to get their hands on the latest tech, it makes perfect sense for Apple to set up shop closer to this vast customer base. Foxconn, Wistron, and Pegatron are leading the charge in India, setting up massive factories and pumping out models like the iPhone SE and the newer iPhone 14 series. The investment isn't just about assembly, it's about building an entire ecosystem. From supply chains to component manufacturing, all within India's borders. It's a win-win. Apple gets a more diversified supply chain, and India gets a slice of the high-tech manufacturing pie. Next up, let's head over to Vietnam, the new challenger that's starting to make some noise in the tech world. Vietnam is currently responsible for about 1.5% of iPhone production, which might sound small, but it's a foothold that's rapidly growing. Vietnam's appeal lies in its competitive labor costs, business-friendly environment, and strategic location within Southeast Asia. Foxconn and Luxshare ICT have already set up production lines here, focusing mainly on components like camera modules and accessories, with plans to ramp up full iPhone assembly soon. Vietnam's growth story in the tech space is a classic example of a small player punching above its weight. By leveraging lower costs and favorable trade agreements, Vietnam is positioning itself as a key partner not just for Apple, but for other tech giants looking to diversify away from China. Now you might be wondering, what about the US? Apple's home turf does have a role, but it's a niche one. Less than 1% of iPhones are made in the United States, mostly high-end, specialty models like the Mac Pro. The production here is small-scale and mainly for show. Let's be real, labor costs are high, and supply chains aren't as developed as they are overseas. But it does give Apple the chance to say, hey, we're still manufacturing in the US. Which, let's face it, plays well for PR. And then there's Brazil, which is often overlooked but plays a crucial role in serving the Latin American market. About 1% of global iPhone production happens in Brazil, and this is mostly driven by local demand and high import tariffs that make local production a better economic choice. Foxconn's Brazilian plants mainly focus on lower-cost models tailored for regional markets, showing that Apple's strategy isn't just about global production, but also about localized solutions. So what does all this mean? Well, Apple's production strategy is a masterclass in risk management and opportunity. By diversifying its manufacturing base, Apple isn't just hedging its bets, it's setting itself up to be more resilient and adaptable to a rapidly changing world. This move makes Apple less vulnerable to geopolitical tensions and gives them the flexibility to adjust quickly to market demands. But let's not overlook the ripple effects. China, for all its dominance, is feeling the pinch, with Foxconn moving some of its operations elsewhere. There are job losses and economic impacts that can't be ignored. It's a wake-up call for the region that's long been the backbone of global tech manufacturing. India and Vietnam, on the other hand, are rising stars that are only just beginning to tap into their potential. These countries are not just passive recipients of outsourced jobs. They're building up their own tech ecosystems, training their workforces, and laying the groundwork to become future giants in the tech manufacturing world. And what about you, the consumer? Well, don't be surprised if in a few years, your next iPhone proudly says Made in India or Made in Vietnam. This isn't just about where our gadgets come from. It's about the global shifts in technology, economics, and geopolitics that affect all of us. So, the next time you pull out your iPhone, take a second to think about the journey it took to get into your hands. It's not just a piece of tech. It's a testament to a complex web of global production, strategic decision-making, and, yes, a bit of risk-taking by one of the most influential companies in the world. Thanks for tuning in! Don't forget to like, subscribe, and let me know in the comments. What do you think about Apple's shift in production? Is it a smart move or just the start of a bigger trend? See you in the next video!